use the umbrella, it'll only be to protect the equipment and give us something to read other than raindrops. Come on, guys, it's going to rain. You're delaying us. Tempting fate, we are. Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Richard Cruz, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Vice Admiral Michael Noonan, Chief of Navy. Today, we recognise the service and sacrifice of Ordinary Seaman Edward Teddy Sheehan of HMAS Armidale. The story of this young man's brave and selfless act in an attempt to save his helpless comrades will be heard shortly. His actions that fateful day, the 1st of December 1942 in the Timor Sea, have long been regarded as the epitome of heroism. Yet the recognition of his deeds has also long been considered by many to be inadequate. That situation has now been righted. After a review on the 12th of August this year, Queen Elizabeth II approved the recommendation that Edward Sheehan be posthumously awarded the Victoria Cross for Australia. Earlier today, the investiture of the award was made to the Sheehan family by the Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia at Government House here in Canberra. The Sheehan family descendants have agreed to donate the medal to the Australian War Memorial, where it will go on display in the Hall of Valour. We would like to acknowledge and thank the family for their immense generosity and for ensuring that this important piece of Australia's history is preserved and made accessible to all Australians. Also displayed today inside the Orientation Gallery is a relic that has survived from HMAS Armidale. This steel helmet is one of those used to bail water out of the ship's damaged whaler boat, in which survivors made for safety after the Armidale sank. The memorial would like to acknowledge and thank Mr Max Taverner, the Armidale sub-branch of the Returned and Services League of Australia, and the 12th 16th Hunter River Lancers History Room for generously making the helmet available for this evening's ceremony. We warmly welcome the family of Ordinary Seaman Edward Teddy Sheehan, VC, whose story will be told shortly. We're honoured to welcome His Excellency General, the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Her Excellency, Mrs Linda Hurley. We're also honoured to welcome all other dignitaries and visitors who are joining us today to commemorate this very significant occasion. As always, we welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. And during this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. Australia's Federation Guard is a tri-service ceremonial unit of the Australian Defence Force. They provide a ceremonial presence at civil and military events and during visits to Australia by foreign dignitaries. The Guard will now dismount the catapult party from the tomb of the unknown Australian soldier. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem.
Catapult party, attention! Catapult party, presents concert.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free.
If you're able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we'll read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection in the following order. Mr. Gary Ivory, on behalf of the family of the late Ordinary Seaman Edward Teddy Sheean, VC. His Excellency General, the Honourable David Hurley, Governor-General of the Commonwealth of Australia, and Her Excellency Mrs. Linda Hurley. Miss Ingrid Southworth, Deputy High Commissioner, United Kingdom High Commission. Senator the Honourable Linda Reynolds, Minister for Defence, and the Honourable Richard Marles, Shadow Minister for Defence. The Honourable Darren Chester, Minister for Veterans Affairs, and the Honourable Shane Newman, Shadow Minister for Veterans Affairs and Defence Personnel. Vice Admiral David Johnston, Vice Chief of the Defence Force, representing the Chief of the Defence Force. The Honourable Guy Barnett, Minister for Veterans Affairs, Tasmania. Warrant Officer of the Navy, Deb Butterworth, representing the Chief of Navy, and Rear Admiral Mark Hammond, Fleet Commander, representing HMAS Sheehan and HMAS Armidale. Mr John King, representing the National President of the Return and Services League of Australia, and Mr David Manalis, National President, Naval Association of Australia. Dr Brendan Nelson, President, Boeing Australia, New Zealand and South Pacific. Mr Kerry Stokes, Chairman of the Council of the Australian War Memorial, and Ms Christine Simpson-Stokes, and Mr Matt Anderson, Director of the Australian War Memorial. If there are any final wreaths to be laid this evening, they will be by visitors to the memorial.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Ordinary Seaman Edward Teddy Sheean, VC. Edward Sheean was born on the 28th of December 1923 in Lower Barrington, Tasmania, the youngest surviving child of 14 children born to James and Mary Jane Sheehan. Most called him Teddy. Raised in Latrobe near Devonport, he attended a local Catholic school. Growing to 5 foot 8.5 inches or 174 centimetres tall and well built, Sheehan then took casual work labouring on farms between Latrobe and Mercy Lee as a young man. Following the outbreak of the Second World War, Teddy enlisted in the Royal Australian Naval Reserve on the 21st of April, 1941. He was 17. 5 of his brothers would serve in the Australian Armed Forces, 4 in the Army and 1 in the Navy. Teddy's initial training was at HMAS Derwent in Hobart. There, during December 1941, he gained experience aboard the auxiliary minesweeper HMAS Kumbar. Feeling stuck in Tasmania and far from the war, Teddy wrote reassuringly to his mother, "I don't think you need to be frightened of any of us not coming back." Teddy was next posted in February 1942 to the training depot HMAS Cerberus on the western port side of Mornington Peninsula. Then, in May, he was drafted to Sydney, where he was stationed at HMAS Penguin, at that time the naval depot on Garden Island. Sheehan's comrades found him quirky and funny, but also saw in him a loyal young man with many unique traits. While in Sydney, he was billeted aboard HMAS Cuttable, a ferry that had been requisitioned by the Navy and was moored off Garden Island. As fate would have it, Teddy was home on leave when Cuttable was sunk by a Japanese midget submarine on the night of the 31st of May. 21 sailors died that night. In June 1942, Teddy joined the newly commissioned Bathurst-class corvette, HMAS Armidale, where he was assigned the role of loader of one of the ship's Olicon anti-aircraft guns. Armidale initially carried out escort duties along the eastern coast of Australia and further north in New Guinea waters between July and the end of October 1942. The ship was then sent to Darwin, arriving on the 7th of November to join the 24th Minesweeping Flotilla. On the 29th of November, Armidale and another corvette, HMAS Castlemaine, were hastily ordered to sail for Timor to reinforce the small Australian force fighting on the island and to evacuate exhausted troops and Portuguese civilians. As part of Operation Hamburger, as it was codenamed, Armidale also carried 61 Netherlands East Indies troops, 2 Dutch officers and 3 Australian soldiers as reinforcements to the island. South of Timor, on the morning of the 30th of November, Armidale and Castlemaine were attacked by a lone Japanese aircraft, but little damage was done. Orders were to press on with the mission, but concern grew now that the 2 vessels had been spotted. Sure enough, more enemy aircraft appeared later that day, and twice more they were subject the Australian ships to bombing and machine gun before being driven off by Australian Beaufort fighter aircraft. The ships pressed on and reached Patano on the southern east coast of Timor before dawn on the 1st of December. Later that morning, south of Timor, the 2 corvettes rendezvoused with the naval tender HMAS Kuru, a smaller vessel that had preceded them and already evacuated some civilians. These were transferred to HMAS Castlemaine, which immediately shaped a course for Darwin. Armidale and Kuru headed back towards Timor to complete the mission. In the early afternoon, under repeated attack from Japanese aircraft, they became separated. Kuru eventually cleared the area and returned to Darwin, but Armidale battled against attacking aircraft well into the afternoon. Fighter cover was called for, but it would not arrive in time. At 3:15 p.m, the final air attack commenced. At least 7 Japanese Betty bombers and 3 fighters pressed home their attack. Without support, it was a near hopeless situation. Armidale's captain, Lieutenant Commander David Richards, took evasive action, manoeuvring the ship wildly in zigzag patterns. But before long, 2 torpedoes and possibly a bomb found their mark. Armidale quickly heeled over and rapidly began to sink by the bow. Richard ordered his crew to abandon ship. Teddy and some shipmates worked frantically to cast off rafts and the 2 ship's boats as other men leapt into the sea. The Japanese pressed home their attack regardless. Seeing his helpless comrades being machine-gunned in the water, Teddy Sheehan made the incredibly brave and selfless decision that sealed his fate. Making for the aft Olicon position, he strapped himself in behind the 20mm gun and began blazing away at the attacking aircraft. Although badly wounded in the chest and back, he kept firing, even as the ship disappeared beneath the waves. It was thought that he damaged one, perhaps two, of the Japanese planes, but certainly deterred them from fully pressing home their attacks, until after nearly 20 minutes, they broke off and flew away. Sheehan went down with the ship. Only 49 of the 149 men on board Armidale survived the sinking and were rescued in the days that followed. Teddy Sheehan's final moments featured in the accounts of the survivors. Summing up the sentiments of many, ordinary seaman Russell Carrow later said, "Teddy died, but none of us who survived, I am sure, will ever forget his gallant deed." Teddy Sheehan is commemorated on the Plymouth Naval Memorial in Britain. His name is also listed on the Roll of Honour to my left, amongst almost 40,000 Australians who died while serving in the Second World War. He was 18 years old. In February 2001, our Navy commissioned a Collins-class submarine named HMAS Sheehan. It was the first Royal Australian Navy ship to be named in honour of a naval rating. For his actions that day, Teddy Sheehan was mentioned in dispatches, but many felt his heroic sacrifice warranted higher recognition. After years of lobbying and re-examination of the events, his nomination for the Victoria Cross for Australia was approved by Queen Elizabeth II on the 12th of August this year. This is but one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember ordinary Seaman Edward Teddy Sheean, VC, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
Cavalry Party, show their arms.
They have no grave but the cruel sea. No flowers lay at their head. A rusting hulk is their tombstone, afast the ocean bed. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. In the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
Cavalry Party, present arms. lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
Cattle party, in words, turn. Cattle party, quick, arch.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this evening's last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening. Thank you.